All righty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. As we know, the NBA season has come to a close, but the next year is already started as we do have free agency, and you also got the NBA draft, and I'll be in the building on Wednesday. So will John Fanta, and you'll see him all across the draft coverage, and John is kind enough to join us right now. John, I appreciate it as always. Let's start with last night first. Let's go with the positive, the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's really impossible to dislike this team. They made the big trade years ago for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then they build through the draft in developing a Jalen Williams, and then we've seen what Chet Holmgren has turned into.
Well, Zach, it's great to be with you, and you're exactly right. Sam Presti has done a magnificent job in building what is now a champion. And everybody's instant reaction, and rightfully so, was what would the game have been had Tyrese Haliburton played? But, you got to look back at it this way. To me, the Thunder got pushed by Indiana and would have gotten pushed more had Haliburton played. But at the end of the day, they faced a steeper task, I feel, when they got pushed by Nikola Jokic to a seventh game. And I thought they were poised and mature and the tougher team. That's when they won that game, I thought they're going to win the championship, because
Same.
that felt like a de facto finals. Even though it was earlier, it still felt that way. So when you look at this team, and we've had 7 different champions in the last 7 years, there's no question that the door flew open for a dynasty to develop. But I think now more than ever, with contract status and with the second apron, of course, Oklahoma City's got everybody under contract. They've got 13 first-round picks since 2031. In the here and now, if you're a Thunder fan, I mean, if there were a Cloud 10, you'd be on it. Because what they have done, and done so with guys still in their early 20s, is absolutely ridiculous. But I think for both teams that were involved in the finals, it underscores this week that if you go into a draft and you're a fan of a team, when we were growing up, when you and I were growing up, if you didn't have a top 5 pick, you got an excuse waiver. That doesn't work out, doesn't work out. I don't think we're in an era where that's okay anymore. That was so indicative of how important it is to roster build, what the Thunder just did. Cason Wallace, Zach, you and I watched him at Kentucky. The moment we saw him play, we're like, he's going to be a pest defensively. Lou Dort, he could be a solid role guy. He's athletic, he's tough. Chet Holmgren, if he stays healthy, it was the big if. Well, he did. And Presti took a risk there too. So it wasn't all just like brilliant move after brilliant move. It was educated risks. Oh, by the way, they still have guys, they haven't even come to the fray yet in their organization due to injury and whatnot. And they're set up. And sports is better when the mighty power turns into something. The interesting thing is, in the here and now, it's impossible to really hate Oklahoma City. But a year from now, if they're back in the NBA Finals, nobody's going to like them outside Oklahoma City, because that's how we roll.
And obviously, they'll be the favorite to repeat as champions and also to come out of the Western Conference. But you look over at the East,
Right.
If the Thunder get back there, all right, Tatum, Achilles. Damian Lillard, Achilles. Haliburton last night, Achilles. I know I'm in New York, right, all over the Knicks. You grew up as a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. The Knicks and the Cavs, even though the postseason was a disaster for the Cavs and the Knicks blew an opportunity in the conference finals, if you don't win one this year, I wouldn't expect to win one anytime soon with either of those core.
Which is why the Knicks coaching conundrum is so glaring now. Because when this move happened, you and I talked about it. You can't get this wrong. You can't. Now, you can, because there's plenty of ways that this could go awry. Because you could hire a guy that's a really good coach, Zach, but it just doesn't fit in year one. Whoever gets this job doesn't have the affordability of year one.
No, it's win now. It's championship or bust.
And if you don't, you're going to be scrutinized to the nth degree, and it's not going to be, well, I'm fascinated by the following year. No, because the following year it's going to be, Boston's reloaded and ready to go. Indiana's got Haliburton back, and they did this in their front office. Where's Giannis going to land? Now, that's obviously fascinating here for a team like the Knicks or for whoever ends up getting him or however this ends up with him. Orlando and Detroit are going to be better. Right now, if I were I'm actually going to go outside the box here. I wasn't thinking about the Knicks and Cavs. I was thinking about the Pistons and Magic. I'm like, if I'm Detroit and I know that I've got Cade, who's blossomed into a star, how do I position myself better to contend, knowing that there's really an open doorway to take off for an Eastern Conference title? Same thing with Orlando, who's been so banged up. But the point is, if you're Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland, you're going into year 2, and you were brought in to take the Cavaliers to a level that J.B. Bickerstaff, that the organization felt he was incapable of. In a lot of ways, the Knicks are similar. The Knicks are hiring a coach. Atkinson got 1 year. The Knicks are not doing that. They're hiring a coach who all the pressure in the world is on that figure to get it done. And do I believe that the Knicks are in a position after? I thought that if the Knicks played the Thunder in the finals, I think the series would have ended in 5 games.
John Fanta here with us. No, it may be 6, probably at most, but you're probably right. The Pacers are just a grittier team. All right, let's get to the draft coming up on Wednesday. Cooper Flagg, we know, is going to be the number 1 overall pick. What's the immediate impact you think year 1 with him going to Dallas?
I think that he will have a really good rookie season. He'll be the rookie of the year. Do I think he's going to be this mainstream all-star in year 1? I don't know about that. I think in 2 or 3 years, he's going to turn into one of the league's toughest, fiercest competitors who just is unstoppable in the lane. He is so tailor-made, Zach, for success in the NBA because, and I'm being real here, this guy is not wired to take plays off in December and January. Now, what kind of postseason player is he going to be? Did he have some instances in Duke where he came up short? Yes, he did. He did. He takes that with him into the NBA. Like for a number 1 pick, it was not all sunshine and rainbows at Duke. In fact, I thought that his stock got hurt too much when a lot of people were watching college hoops in November, and he had a couple of moments down the stretch, Champions Classic against Kentucky, and then against Kansas out in Vegas, where then people were like, oh, he's not made for the moment. Well, he created so many terrific moments for Duke. He's going to be a 15, 16, 17-year player in the National Basketball Association. I think he'll be an all-star for 10 of those years. I think that at worst, he's the 3rd best player on a really, really good team. And at best, he's a top 5 player for several years in the NBA because, Zach, he's elite defensively. He limits whoever he's guarding with his wingspan and his versatility. On the offensive end of the floor, he attacks the basket at will. The perimeter game, all the doubts about the perimeter game, in the back half of the season, he shot 40% from 3. So the answer to your question is, I believe he's better than Zion. And I believe that there's a case to be, I think he's the best number 1 pick, I believe, in the last at least 10 years. And to me, he's the most compelling. He's as compelling a number 1 pick as the likes of, the top of the top, as the likes of a LeBron. Like that. That's what I think of when I think of this guy. He is in that category.
John Fanta here with us. So he was Batman at Duke. Robin was Con Knipple. Down the stretch, he really elevated his stock. What's his ceiling on the next level?
Knipple?
Yeah.
Knipple is a guy who I expect to fit right into the league and be a guy who you're going to see, as an all-star potentially. Not a superstar because he's limited athletically, Zach, and that could hurt him defensively. But terrific shot maker, tough as hell, built well, mature beyond his years. And in a league right now where it's never been more valuable to be a solid complementary shooter. He is going to be able to thrive in the NBA. And that's why I think he's tailor-made for the Charlotte Hornets at 4. The Hornets have been amongst the league's worst teams in perimeter shooting for now several years. And I think when you look at them and LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, they've got some pieces, but they don't have an identity. I'm not saying that Con Knipple gives you an identity, but I do know that he's going to help your identity more so than guys like than a VJ Edgecombe or even a Trey Johnson. Like
Sure.
I love their individual talents, but Knipple established something this past year at Duke. He's a little bit more vocal than Flagg. So to me, Con is poised. If he falls below 6 in this draft, I understand that there's a couple of teams in this draft, meaning Utah, the Wizards at 6. Like, I actually feel bad for the Wizards because I think they're stuck. They got a couple contracts that are the Jordan Poole situation's strange. They said it's not working out, but then he ends up having a pretty good year. The Con Knipple may not be he's not the Ace Bailey swing, but man, Zach, that guy's going to get you some base hits, the comparable to him. He is a lock to be successful for a long period of time.
Well, here's what we know. We know Flagg's going 1. We know Harper's going 2, John Fanta. A month and a half ago, I would have said, okay, Ace Bailey then goes 3. Now, everyone I'm talking to, and this has just been the rhetoric also online, immature and getting horrible advice. How legitimately far will Ace Bailey, you think, fall on Wednesday night?
Well, I'd be surprised, Zach, if he falls below the Pelicans at 7. Now, there's an interesting dichotomy here with the New Orleans Pelicans and an interesting situation because Joe Dumars comes in as vice president and you've got new leadership. There's been reporting that suggests, and people that I've talked to in the scouting world suggest the Pelicans are infatuated with Bailey. But the Pelicans also used, I believe, over 40 starting lineup combinations this past year. And they're another team that's really all over the place in terms of how their roster is constructed. And there's a Zion Williamson elephant in the room of like, what's next? So if you're New Orleans and you're picking where you're at 7, coming off your worst year since 2011-12, you sit here and you say, all right, well, do we need somebody that maybe doesn't help us in the win column right away, but it might help us in terms of 1, buzz, 2, star power, 3, could sell some more tickets. Like Bailey's if all works out, he's that type of figure.
Is he going to fall, though, that far in your opinion?
I think he could.
Okay.
I wouldn't take if I were the Philadelphia 76ers, I wouldn't touch it with a 100-foot long pole. Because I don't think he helps them, and I think they're in it to win now. I mean, they have to be. They so over 70% of their money is with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. He could fall there. What's going to be interesting is if Washington, or New Orleans for that matters, says we're going to trade up. We're going to trade up. We're going to get him. And if you're Philadelphia, San Antonio would need a real haul. I don't see it. I think they're going to pick Dylan Harper. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. But I do think that's what's fascinating about this draft night is I think Bailey could fall to 7. I do. I don't think he falls past that, Zach, just because in this draft, to me, I'd want to pick 1 to 7 or 19 to 30. 8 to 18, very blurry in terms of upside and who falls there. I think there's going to be plenty of value in the back end of this first round, but I don't see it falling beyond 7. The question is, can Philadelphia swindle someone into trading up for Bailey?
So when you look at the Spurs at 2, because we just mentioned Harper, John Fanta. So you have Wemby there, you got Castle, you got Fox. This just seems as if that team is not only on the rise, but they could maybe be a contender this upcoming season if everyone stays healthy.
They are positioned. San Antonio is absolutely positioned. And as much as like I'm so glad Greg Popovich is okay.
Yeah.
And God bless him. He's one of the game's greatest. That his health issues and the different things happening there just create a natural, like, okay, where do we go as an organization? That's tough because they're trying to ascend. And I'm glad Pop's going to stay in the organization. Again, how could you not love what he's meant for the game of basketball? But now they have a clear direction. They've got a clear what's next. And so much of this is dependent on Wemby's health. But when you look at Steph Castle coming in and Devin Vassell and how they're positioned as a roster, now, some people out there are like, well, does Harper fit in that backcourt? Don't they already have some weapons? Get out of here. Did you watch the NBA Finals? You watch the playoffs? You can never have enough backcourt weapons.
Like pitchers in baseball, you can never have enough of them.
The Pacers got to the finals with the deepest backcourt in the league. And oh, by the way, as I'm watching Indiana, I'm like, damn, Ben Mathurin and TJ McConnell. I mean, Ben Mathurin is 23. Zach, either he's going to flourish in Indiana or they're going to trade him.
Sure.
And they could get terrific value for him. So Harper, in any other year, he is the headliner. And he's still getting a lot of headlines between the family. Honestly, it's amazing to me. I will say this to you. What's amazing to me is that Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey were at the same school.
Couldn't make the tourney. Couldn't even close.
Couldn't make the tourney. Couldn't come close, but I will say this. They couldn't be more opposite at the end of the day in how their circles are operating.
Yeah.
And to me, I will say this, a little bit of a deep cut. It is very interesting to me, and you're close to New Jersey as well, like me, how 10 months ago, Harper and Bailey, their camps were well intermixed. We're going to do things the same way. And I'll be honest, in the last, couple of months, it's very much Dylan Harper is Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey is Ace Bailey, because Dylan Harper's like, I'm not getting caught up in people having to pay to interview me. I'm not getting caught up in not doing who doesn't do a formal workout with a team?
I'll tell you, it's Shador Sanders-like, and also I get some Ben Simmons vibes from Ace Bailey. And I was there in Philly when Ben Simmons came in. I think he got a lot of bad advice, and I think there was some work ethic problems and some maturity issues.
The difference with the NBA is, one, you don't have a fifth round of a draft.
Yes.
And two, to me, there's Ace Bailey is so special from an upside perspective that if you were to continually pass, the drop-off's not going to happen because, again, it's the NBA draft. And if you take Bailey at 7, 8, or 9, you gain a lot more if he pans out than you're harmed if it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You're harmed if at 3, it's a total flame out.
Sure. Last thing I'll ask you, John Fanta, because I know you got to run and we always appreciate it. Jalen Brunson, right? When he was at Villanova, all he did was win. And then for whatever reason, people didn't view him as this great prospect. It took him some time, but now he's a star. That's what he is, and he's turned around the Knicks. Is the same kind of thing happening here with Walter Clayton Jr., who we know could be a great shot maker? Because I keep on seeing these mock drafts. They have him going in the 20s.
Yeah. I have him going 26 to the Nets. And by the way, I would sit here and tell you right now, there is no franchise that has more on the line heading into this NBA draft than the Brooklyn Nets, who have stacked picks up for future years. Well, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, you have 5 of the top 36 picks. You better get this right. Or at least you better hit it on at least 2, if not 3 of them. I have him going 26. To me, he could go 17th or 18th, and I'll take no issue with it, because when you've got guys like Will Riley, who I still think has a long way to develop in terms of his defensive capabilities and his feel for the game for making the right play offensively. Even a Jace Richardson. I love Jace's upside. I love his athleticism. I still have questions about his offense. Walter Clayton's plug and play. This is a league now where if you are not a top prospect, meaning I'm going to say top 6 to 8. If I am a team picking after 15, I want plug and play. Because unless I have the luxury of my team is, Oklahoma City, how does Oklahoma City have 2 of the top 24 picks in this draft? Unless you're them and you could say, we could pick a Pokashevsky. We could pick somebody outside the box and say, stash him away for 2 or 3 years and then we'll figure something out. If you are a team trying to win now, which there are plenty in the 20s trying to do so, and even in the late teens, how could you not want to pick Walter Clayton, who just owned the NCAA tournament, was the best bucket getter in college basketball, and was just a stud? And he's not the only one. Anik Clifford out of Colorado State, you could say, well, it's the Mountain West. Still a damn good league. And all that guy did the last 2 years was just hoop and earn it and outwill people. So there are a couple of gems in this draft. Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joe's is a very polarizing figure. Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton. How does he fit in to the equation? I think that is one of the most fascinating parts of this draft because of the way college basketball is structured now is we actually have a ton of one and dones. The whole lottery could be one and done guys with the exception of maybe one. But this is why I say I want to pick 19 to 30, Zach, because I could end up having more value for the present and future with a guy who just played 4 years or 5 years of college basketball than I ever will with a 2 or 3 year developmental project, because in 2 or 3 years in the NBA, the current roster construction of this, you might not have that luxury.
He's the great John Fanta. John, we appreciate it. We'll be watching your coverage all throughout the week. Always appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate you. See you at the draft.